Welcome back, scholars. I'm your master coach, and we are broadcasting live from the digital studio for today's elite Cambridge AS and A-Level Accounting 9706 Masterclass. Today, we are decoding the absolute bedrock of your syllabus, the double entry system and the accounting equation. Look at the split screen layout I've got up here. On one side, we have the raw textbook theory. On the other, we have the exact strategies needed to dissect complex, high-tariff questions, master your time allocation, and deploy critical thinking. If you've ever felt like you memorized all the formulas but still aren't securing those top-tier 9 to 15 mark bands, you are exactly where you need to be. We are looking straight into the examiner's playbook. Because let's be real. If you cannot balance the fundamental equation where assets equal capital plus liabilities, every complex financial statement you attempt to build later will completely fall apart.
Coach, the stakes here are uncompromising. Take a look at this direct quote on our interactive smartboard from the Senior Examiner reports. Mastering the double entry system is essential. This topic appears in every examination series. You absolutely cannot avoid this. But before we get into the accounting math, we need to talk about command word anatomy. When a 15-mark question drops on your desk, examiners use a digital highlighter in their minds to isolate your response to the command word. If the prompt says analyze, they want you to deconstruct the transaction, say how a credit purchase impacts specific ledger accounts. But if it says evaluate, you are in a completely different ballpark. Evaluation demands you weigh the consequences of an error, perhaps how an omission distorts the final profit. Similarly, explain means providing clarity on a method, while to what extent requires a justified judgment based on hard ledger evidence. Missing these hidden constraints is where the majority of candidates hemorrhage marks.
To get you exam ready, our masterclass agenda is strictly time-blocked. 1. The examiner's perspective. 2. 3 core cognitive domains. 3. The method mark strategy. 4. Top 3 exam pitfalls. And 5. Unlocking top-tier marks.
Let's jump straight into Section 1, the examiner's perspective.
I want you to look at this question on the board. Why do students find interpreting complex texts and data so hard? It's a fascinating question. The reason is that too many candidates treat accounting as just a math test. But the examiner is testing systematic, logical analysis. Take a standard transaction, like the credit purchase of a non-current asset. A student relying on rote memory might just punch the cost into a calculator and spit out a number. But the examiner's lens is completely different. They want to see your content knowledge applied to the dual effect. They want to see you analyze which two specific accounts are impacted, how the liability precisely increases, and how the asset base expands. You have to apply structured logic, not just blind formulas. You must understand the why behind the numbers.
Which brings us to Section 2, the 3 core cognitive domains.
Let's make this highly interactive. I'm bringing in 2 of our top scholars into the digital study suite right now. Alex, who is highly technical and excels at formulas, and Sam, our creative thinker, who is phenomenal at arguments but sometimes struggles with structural precision. Hey, Coach. Honestly, looking at this donut chart with assessment objectives 1, 2, and 3, knowledge, analysis, and evaluation, I always just want to lock in the factual approach. If I get the T accounts right, shouldn't that be enough?
But Alex, if we are tackling a high-tariff 12 or 15-mark question, the examiner is begging for a broader perspective. The exact rubric requires us to unlock all 3 domains.
Sam is absolutely right, Alex. Knowledge, AO1, is simply knowing a debit increases an asset. Analysis, AO2, is correctly recording a complex return of goods in the proper books. But evaluation, AO3, is the top tier. It's assessing how a complete omission of that entry fundamentally impacts the final profit for the year. You two need to blend your approaches.
Let's look at the academic benchmarks on the screen. It prioritizes analytical depth over superficial breadth.
Okay, so a superficial approach would be me just shotgun listing every type of ledger account I know to try and pick up stray marks.
Exactly. And I guess my struggle is that I'll write a massive paragraph arguing about the conceptual impact on the balance sheet, but I lose track of the chronological flow and my timing completely falls apart.
That is a brilliant self-correction, Sam. Deep, structured reasoning requires you to explain the precise flow of financial information, from source documents to the books of prime entry, and finally correctly posting them to the ledger, while maintaining a strict time allocation. Quality and precision always beat quantity and waffle in Cambridge 9706.
Let's transition to Section 3, the method mark strategy.
All right, we are about to solve one of the hardest cognitive roadblocks you will face in the exam hall. But hold that thought, Alex and Sam. I am pausing our session right here. If you're watching this and you are serious about unlocking these exact cognitive strategies to get unstuck on exam day, you need to subscribe to the channel Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels at the handle @acetheexam_IGCSE. Hit that subscribe button on your screen, enable all notifications by clicking that bell icon right now so you never miss our weekly Cambridge Breakthrough Strategies. Okay, we are back. Alex and Sam are actively drafting a model response for a suspense account correction.
Coach, I'm hitting a wall. I've identified the error type, and I applied the double entry principle, but my final arithmetic is totally off. I just lost 15 marks, didn't I?
Not at all, Alex. Let's use the picture-in-picture feature here. Look at the 5 steps on the board. Examiners look for an exact, standardized sequence. Step 1, identify. Step 2, apply. Step 3, execute analysis with clear working. Step 4, verify. Step 5, present format. Because you showed your clear working in Step 3, even though your final tally is off, your debits and credits are conceptually on the correct sides. By using this cognitive strategy, you are securing crucial method marks. They grade the rigorous process, not just the final destination.
Let's refine your paragraph linking. When extracting data from complex texts and tables, your interpretation skills have to map relationships flawlessly.
Right, so if I'm looking at a massive table with a standard closing inventory adjustment, I can't just write down the numbers. I need to logically interpret how that single adjustment dual impacts both the gross profit in the income statement and the current assets in the statement of financial position.
Let me rewrite my flawed section out loud then. Instead of saying inventory goes up, I should write, the closing inventory adjustment logically increases the current assets on the statement of financial position by $4,000 while simultaneously reducing the cost of sales, thereby increasing the gross profit by the identical $4,000.
Boom! That is exactly it. You just transitioned a mediocre, vague answer into a flawless, full-mark response. That is how you draw evidence-based conclusions.
Moving to Section 4, Top 3 Exam Pitfalls.
All right, viewers, I'm addressing you directly for an immersive visual workshop segment. Get ready to pause and practice. Scene 1, Data Analysis. I am putting a complex text excerpt on our interactive board detailing a manufacturing business scenario. A 60-second visual countdown timer is starting now. Look closely at the principal examiner warnings. When an examiner says an answer is too vague, they mean you aren't extracting specific data from the prompt. When they penalize formatting, they are flagging missing dates in your ledger accounts, lack of correct narratives in your journal entries, or failing to properly bring down balances with a clear balance B/D. And pitfall number 3 is the deadliest, ignoring context. If the text excerpt is about a specialized manufacturing business, your answer cannot be a generic, memorized textbook response. It must dynamically address their specific factory overheads and direct costs.
Now for Scene 2 of our workshop, Spot the Flaw. I am displaying a poorly written student answer on the board. Your task is to find the 3 errors based on this massive examiner alert regarding terminology confusion. Read it carefully. Did you spot them? Here is the dissection. The student completely confused capital expenditure, like buying a brand new delivery van, with revenue expenditure, like putting fuel in that same van. I am annotating the screen in red right now. By mixing up these 2 terms, this student incorrectly inflated their asset valuation, which mathematically corrupted their profit calculation, causing their entire analysis to crumble. The exact path to avoiding this examiner trap is to explicitly define your terms in your opening sentence before deploying them in your extended response.
Finally, let's move to Section 5, Unlocking Top-Tier Marks.
How do we separate the average passing student from the elite? It all comes down to evaluative thinking. Coach, I think I'm having a massive breakthrough here. Evaluative thinking isn't just about passionately arguing a point. It's about questioning the assumptions of the data and justifying every single decision with hard quantitative evidence from the ledger. Spot on, Sam. Consider the inherent limitations of a trial balance. An average student sees that the trial balance agrees and assumes everything is perfect. An elite candidate questions that assumption. They evaluate the fact that hidden errors of omission or errors of commission could still exist, and they explain the strategic, real-world impact those invisible errors have on the stakeholders relying on those financial statements.
And Alex, how does this apply when you are asked to perform comparative analysis? Look at the strict rules on the board.
Well, previously, I would just list how two accounting methods were different, but the rubric demands both similarities and differences. So if I'm comparing the impact of using straight line versus reducing balance depreciation within the accounting equation, I must structure my paragraph to explicitly state what they share conceptually, like allocating the cost of an asset over its useful life, and then exactly where their impact on the net book value diverges over multiple years. I have to use seamless comparative connectives.
Exactly, Alex. Simply listing those points isn't enough to max out the rubric. You have to weigh the evidence and draw definitive conclusions about their relative importance. You must put yourself in the shoes of a financial advisor. Based on the data, you need to advise the business owner on a definitive course of action, stating exactly which financial factor carries more weight and why. That is what Cambridge means by top-tier academic reasoning.
Before we wrap, here's a highly practical memory hack straight from Elite Study Frameworks. Encode your studies using a visual story method. Because the double entry system demands strict adherence to rules, you can reduce your cognitive load by picturing the business as a living entity, entirely separate from the owner. When the owner invests cash, visualize a literal cash bucket physically filling up with an asset on the left side of your screen. Simultaneously, visualize the capital bucket filling up on the right, representing the business's newfound liability to the owner. Every financial action has an equal visual reaction. Encode the formulas as physical movements.
What an incredible session. Alex and Sam, your breakthroughs today on blending structured logic with evaluative depth are exactly what examiners are hunting for. To synthesize this entire masterclass into 3 core, memorable pillars for everyone watching, Pillar 1 is the 3-step question scan. Always digitally highlight the command word, the content knowledge, and the hidden constraints. Pillar 2 is the paragraph balance formula. Ensure every analytical point is backed by hard ledger evidence and explicitly linked back to the scenario's context. And Pillar 3 is the last 5 minutes review checklist. Verify your formats, your dates, and your balance brought down figures to secure those vital method marks. Listen to me. Crushing Cambridge exams requires consistent elite strategy. It is not about studying harder. It is about studying exactly how the examiner grades. So I am challenging you right now. Hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCS O and A levels at the handle @AceTheExam_IGCSE. Turn on the notification bell so you are armed with our future exam hacks, and drop down into the comment section right now and officially declare your target grade. Claim it, work for it, and use the examiner's playbook to go get it. I'll see you in the next masterclass.